Welcome to the Giving Voice to Addiction podcast, brought to you by Recovery.com, where each week real people share real stories of recovery. I'm Terry McGuire. Addiction isn't just statistics, it is personal. When we share our stories of recovery, we can inspire hope. So take a deep breath, settle in and listen as Eli gives voice to addiction. Hi, Eli.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And this is the first time you've ever been on a podcast.
This is my first time, yeah.
Why'd you choose to do it?
I chose to do this because it's very important to get the message out that it is possible to recover, that the support is there if you are willing to find it.
What do you consider yourself to be in recovery from?
I'm in recovery from a severe cocaine addiction. Along with that, some mental health issues that came hand in hand with that addiction.
Pretty commonly. So you've described yourself as having a 13-year cocaine addiction. What do you care to share about how that started and how it progressed?
I wasn't any stranger to using other drugs, smoking marijuana, using ecstasy and Molly. Those were things that I would do on occasion. But when I did cocaine for the first time, I knew that that was the one that I was going to stick with. It progressed slowly, never really seeking it out for myself. If it was at a party, I would use until I found a dealer of my own. It was a local person. It was easily accessible, which made it that much more convenient. And from that point on, it was no longer a weekend thing. It started to become, during the weeks after work. I don't think I could really tell you when the switch was from recreational to absolute addiction, but I know it happened. The grip was very heavy. And I'd say for the last 5 years of my addiction, up until last November, I was using between 2 to 3 grams of cocaine a day, malnourished, no sleep for days on end, psychosis, hallucinations, very, very dark. It took me realizing that I was going to die to finally allow myself to seek help.
That says a lot about how strong the addiction is when you get to the point of needing to think it will kill you before you think, oh, this might be a problem.
I was willing to go put myself through having seizures, like I said, hallucinations, 3, 4, 5 days spans of no sleep, and not think anything of it. Because the only thing I was thinking about at that time was the steps to get high, go find my drug dealer, prepare my drugs, and get high. And that was my life.
What happened to the rest of your life? Relationships, jobs?
I lost it all slowly at first. I was able to maintain it for quite a while. I considered myself to be a sneaky drug addict. Now looking back on it, I don't think I was so sneaky. For quite a while, I was able to maintain a job, keep my family and my friends close. I had a relationship that I was in, but at the end, that relationship, I was engaged to be married. She left me. My boss called me into the office and fired me. It all came crashing down. I had nothing left.
Is the crashing down what brought you to the decision to seek treatment?
Yes. I was hesitant even at that point in time to seek treatment. Death seemed better than recovery, because I didn't understand what recovery was, and I didn't understand that life could be any different. I knew what I liked, and I liked being high. I was addicted to the lifestyle more than anything. It was a rush for me to break the law. It was a rush for me to possess drugs, deal drugs, do whatever I had to do to maintain my addiction. Like, you're losing your best friend.
Quitting is losing your best friend.
Correct. That's something that has stuck by my side for 13 years. That has never left me.
Mm-hmm.
I've always could rely on it. It was always going to be there for me. And to think that I had to live without that was strangely heartbreaking.
So if it is heartbreaking to quit, that makes it even harder to choose to go into treatment. So how did you make that decision?
There was a couple things that stood out to me that prompted my decision. One was obviously having nothing left. You know, I was struggling at that point to pay my rent. I was looking at eviction. There was an evening where my mom came into my apartment and threw a bag of Narcan at me and said, "Hopefully you won't die." That was a big turning point. That shook me pretty good. I had committed to go into recovery or into residency.
Okay.
That process moved really quickly. They told me it was going to be about 4 to 6 weeks. It was only 10 days before they called me and said, "We can admit you on Monday." That was a blessing, because had I had any more time to think about it, I don't know if I would have done it. 2 days before I was going in on Monday, November 25th. My mom took me to a coffee shop to meet somebody that she knew was a life coach and peer sports specialist named Roger. And I was very skeptical that this person could change my life, because who could? Right. You know, I can't. I couldn't.
Yeah, right.
At that point, I couldn't.
Right.
But something came over me. I walked in and I saw this person, and I had a feeling that I had known him for a long time. He challenged me right off the bat, and I needed to be challenged. I didn't realize how much I needed that. And I kept telling him, "I don't want to be a drug addict." And he said, "Eli, you are a drug addict. You always will be a drug addict, but you can change and you can live a life of recovery." And I had never thought about it like that. I had never even considered that my life could change. I always just figured I was going to be an addict who was sober, who was going to white knuckle the rest of his life and be miserable. I looked at Roger, who shared intimate details of his own recovery journey, and saw that he was still standing, but not just standing, but thriving and living a life that was emotionally and spiritually connected to the world around him. And at that point, I knew it was possible. And at that point, I knew that was what I needed to do for myself.
What did that realization feel like?
I was very scared. I didn't know what to expect. In my mind, I was like going into like a mental institution, and there was going to be these restrictions that, were something that I wasn't going to want to necessarily participate in. Mm-hmm. It was terrifying. It really was. I felt lost. I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. I felt like a baby. I didn't know anything. I needed direction, and I needed someone to push me to the edge.
You used the verb surrender as opposed to went. You say you surrendered to treatment, mm-hmm. which is so different than saying I went to treatment. How was it different for you?
I used the verb surrendering because you have to change your entire life. You have to dig deep and find the root cause of why you lie to yourself, why you choose to believe the lies. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve better. This will always be the way. This is how I'm going to die. And you have to allow yourself to be completely vulnerable. You have to take advice. That's something that addicts don't do. We don't listen to anybody but ourselves, because there's no reason to. Anybody else's advice is going to just tell me to not live this way.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn in treatment that has helped you become the man who's sitting before me today speaking with such wisdom?
How to let go of things that are not good for me. That was a big one. I learned how to be vulnerable once again, learn how to take advice. I learned how to be a part of a community that is there to help me and not enable me. All of this, I didn't realize that I was learning any of this until I got out, because in there it's very repetitious. You fill out check-in sheets morning, noon, and night, and every single day you're doing these, and a lot of times, like, how many times can you write a different emotion down? But what I realized is that repetition and the structure that they had for our agenda, our daily agendas, that was gearing me for the real world. That was showing me, okay, when you get out of residency and you have to live on your own and you have to start your life over, that, you wake up in the morning and maybe it's not a check sheet, but it's making your bed or taking your shower, doing, making your cup of coffee, and you get into a daily schedule and keep yourself busy and productive. That's the ticket, is being productive. If you have idle time, that's when things can go bad. You start, that's when you can start getting into your thoughts and urges, and that's a big element of my recovery, is being productive.
And you did not, I don't know what words to use here, put yourself in a situation where you went from residency right back into your own little world where all of the things that were there before are still there. Tell me about how that's beneficial, or if it was beneficial to you.
It was absolutely beneficial. Had I gotten out and just went straight back into my own little world, there would have been nothing there. It would have just been the same world that I had tried to get out of in the first place. And I know that I would have regressed right back into my old patterns. So I did the partial hospitalization programming for 2 months. And then I did the intensive outpatient programming for another month. The PHP programming is 7 hours a day. It keeps you there, and it just furthers your knowledge of how the recovery program actually works. And it teaches you these strengths. You have the ability to go home at night. You have the freedom to be outside of the residency home, but it keeps you, it keeps you a little bit on a leash, so to speak. Accountability, absolutely. And then same with the IOP, it's tapered, tapering off. So instead of 24 hours a day, now we're at 7 hours, and then down to 3 hours a day. Which in that time I was able to then start looking for work and thinking about what I want to do to gradually bring myself back into the real world. The tools that they have taught me, especially with coping, being able to see the bigger picture, understand all of the things that used to trigger my addiction, my urge, my want to use, that all of that is still there. Life is still life, but it's how I manage myself and how I can handle these situations is what was taught to me in this program.
Let's talk about that self-management and the tools that you learned, and what do you use on, I assume, a daily basis, maybe a minute by minute basis sometimes, that allows you to continue your recovery.
Sobriety and recovery are two different things. Sobriety is being, you're not using. Recovering is using the tools that you have gained to make yourself a better person, to dig deep and realize what the root causes of your addiction were. Drugs and alcohol are the solution. Absolutely. They're not the problem. They're the solution. You have to find different solutions to take their place. And connection is, in my opinion, the foundation of my recovery. Once I realized that I could be myself without drugs and alcohol, old friends, my family, new people, new opportunities all started coming again to me. And when I realized that, and I say it lightly, but like that's all it takes is just to connect and and be a part of the world around me and quit isolating and quit pretending that my life is awful. That's when my recovery took off. You know, my life has never really been awful. I put myself into awful situations. And then continued to dig that hole deeper and deeper. But luckily, I've been able to start digging myself back out of there.
The digging deep part, the looking at the why, the root, that's really hard. And I'm not asking you what your root was, but does understanding it, that there is one, help you stay the course?
Absolutely.
Because it's still there.
It's
You
still
just
there.
have a different relationship to it?
Yes. To answer your question, yeah, it absolutely has helped me stay on course. It's also helped me realize who I truly am and what it takes to be that person. Digging deep into my own emotions and my own trauma and the reasons that I used in the first place have been things that not only have I addressed in recovery, but I also work with a therapist. And this time around, you know, I can be truthful about it because I've tried it in the past, but I've never told the truth. Those connections cannot be made, and that progress cannot be made without being truthful to not only yourself, but the people that are trying to help you.
How different is the person you know yourself to be now from the person you believed yourself to be back then?
Night and day. I can be in a room of people and not feel anxious. I can look people in the eyes. I can fill out applications knowing that I can pass a drug screening. You know, it's just, I can embrace life and I can allow myself to feel vulnerable. The person I used to be was a very hard-shelled person, easily aggravated, quick to push you away, manipulative. I wasn't living for myself. I was living for the ability to use. Now I live for the ability to connect with other people, for the ability to be in my family's lives. If I were that same person I was 6 months ago, when I say that, it feels silly to me because 6 months is a drop in the bucket in a 13-year span, you know, but the progress that I have made in these 6 months surpasses what I have done in those 13 years, at least personally. I can't love those people if I'm not loving myself.
What do you hope in the next 6 months bring?
I've got an interesting next couple months here in my life. I'm actually leaving town for work. I'm going to be in Minnesota. I have freedom now. I'm not going to have anyone to look over me now. This, in my opinion, is the turning point. This is the true testament of my ability to be true to my recovery and the program that I have dedicated my life to. I want to come back from this trip in August with my head high. I want to go to my meeting that Friday when I come back and celebrate 9 months of sobriety. I don't ever want to go back to where I was. I know how it feels to live a lonely life of disparity, and I know how it feels to live a life of connection and honesty and willingness to move forward. And I choose that any day of the week. There's power that comes with both of them. To be an addict, you know, you have, at least you think you have this power because you are a manipulative, you know, user. I mean, it's in the name. You're a user, and that doesn't just stand for using drugs. You use everything in your way, people, places, everything. And that feels powerful because you're getting what you want. When you let go and you start living for the better, that's a power that isn't tangible, but you can feel it. It's not you holding the power, it's you giving the power to someone else to allow them to be in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that power trumps that manipulative way of life any day.
I am so grateful to you, Eli, that you were willing to share your story here and that you decided to do your first podcast with us, because I know that people will hear this story and find hope in it and hopefully be inspired to start their own recovery journeys.
I hope that this gets a message out to people that, it's not easy. You have to face yourself. You have to allow yourself to say, man, maybe I was a piece of shit. and the person you are, I don't ever think that I was a bad person, but I did bad things. I'm a good person who's just lost, who got caught up in something that was never going to let him go. I loved drugs. But it never loved me back. It was always waiting there for me. It was like a one-sided relationship. No matter what, I was always going to love that drug. And to be honest with you, I still do. That feeling that you get when you use never escapes your mind. You can control yourself and understand that is not what life is anymore, but you can't forget. But the reality is it never loved me back. It took everything. It destroyed my life. I destroyed my life with the help of it. Mm-hmm. Without it, there's no destruction. There's no despair. And the tough times aren't tough. They're difficult, but they're manageable. If there's a message that I can get out to people is it's possible. I wanted to die. I mean, that's the reality of this. I prayed that my life would be taken from me because death was easier than recovery. I didn't have to do anything to die. It's possible to not feel like that.
I'm glad you don't.
Me too.
Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Giving Voice to Addiction. Thank you so much for being part of this important conversation. And if you or someone you know is looking for support or resources, please visit Recovery.com. They offer a wide range of information, including treatment options. We'll be back soon with another episode. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Take care of yourselves and each other.